Excellent, here we are. Hello everyone. As Emma said, I'm Dr. Michael Higgins and I'm here to speak to the Media and Communication Master's Programme, and I'm joined by Dr. Sallyanne Duncan, who'll say a few things on digital journalism. But before we start, we'll just talk about the standing of Strathclyde as an institution. It's a comparatively young university founded in 1964, although originally formed in the time of the Scottish Enlightenment by John Anderson. And it's a successful institution. It's very research intensive. We have a very vibrant graduate culture, and it has been the recipient of the Times Higher Education Awards on several occasions. The last was in 2019, before we handed it over to our city partners, the University of Glasgow, who now hold it. So it's a very good university that you would be coming to. But also the subject area is well regarded. At Strathclyde, journalism, media and communication routinely is in the top 5 of the university league tables. And at the moment, as we see here, we're #1 in the Guardian, #2 in the Times Higher Education, and #2 in the Complete University Guide. So that measures the quality of our research, how difficult it is for students to get here, and a variety of other factors. So what sorts of graduates do we dedicate ourselves to producing in journalism, media and communication at Strathclyde? There's a list here, and we're interested in producing people who are intelligent and adaptive thinkers. So we want problem solvers, people who innovate and are entrepreneurial. Sallyanne will go on to talk more about this. But the one thing we know about media and communication is that it will change markedly over the next few years, far less decades. The same is also true of digital journalism. And the better, the more adaptive you are, the more innovative you are, the more entrepreneurial you are, the better you'll be at making a success of those changes. And so we also look for boldness and curiosity in our students. And we train them to have confidence, also to be open-minded and to collaborate readily with others. Group work is at the heart of much of what we do. And we like to cultivate a culture between our students, not just in terms of supporting one another, but also in working with one another. And importantly, learning to work with one another in ways that are supportive and mutually beneficial. So we look for conscientiousness in our students, but we also look for a real international outlook. And of course, highly adaptable communicators. We want students who can turn their hand to a variety of communicative situations, can excel across media platforms that haven't even been invented yet. We need people who are adaptable communicators. And I think if we were to summarize this, because many of these sound quite generic, of course we want problem solvers. If we were to summarize this from our perspective, what we're really looking for are deeply ethical and internationally oriented journalism, media and communication professionals. We're interested in producing students who are ethical and who have a global outlook. Now, I'm speaking now on behalf of media and communications. So where do our graduates often go? Well, a number of them have gone into government communications, and that includes within the Scottish Government and overseas. Number 2, and we train quite specifically for this, number 2 go into public relations and corporate communications. This is why we add so keenly an ethical component to our teaching, because we believe that corporate communications and PR should be about the social good, should be about improving the lives of people. And we're very keen to produce graduates who contribute to that ambition. And we also have students who go on to further doctoral level study. They go and study PhDs with us, but also with other highly ranked institutions across the UK and across the world. So we have a variety. No, that is by no means an exhaustive list. We have a variety of graduate destinations that our students go to. We're also very keen in keeping in touch with our students. So we're constantly updating our understanding of where students are going and how well they're doing. Now, if you're to come here and study media and communication, and I think the same structure, in fact, I know the same structure applies to digital communication, digital journalism rather. You will study 3 classes per semester. This is if you're doing a full-time curriculum. There are part-time options too. So you're doing 3 classes per semester, and you'll also, after 2 semesters, do a final dissertation project, which normally takes place over the summer. Now, semesters 1 and 2 can change about depending on whether or not you decide to join us in January. So if you join us in January, then semester 1 will be your first semester. Sorry, semester 2 will be your first semester, and semester 1 your second. I'll just stick to the semester titles as they normally are for the purposes of this. In semester 1, we have 2 core classes that we oblige you to do. And the one of them is slightly obliquely titled From Broadcast to Participation. And what that really is a history of how communication has come to be as it is. And the orientation of that class is very much towards preparing you for communication as it develops in the future. Because communication almost invariably calls upon how we are, successful technologies of the past and the successes and technologies of the future. And good communicators, good communication innovation comes from taking what people want more of and adapting it, using and making the most of technologies. And From Broadcast to Participation is a class that teaches us the history of this and how media and communication has come to be how it presently is, but also where we will go in the future, and where graduates such as the graduates from our programme will be taking us over the next 20, 30 years. The other core class reflects the international orientation of our programme, and that's communication theory in an international context. It looks at the high theory, the systematic study of communication, but it's very intent on ensuring that we reorient that to a global perspective. So there's no Western focus, which has been one of the flaws of media and communication over the last number of years. We are, and along with a number of other institutions, we're working to redress that and to produce students who don't just come from a number of international backgrounds, but are also comfortable with communication at the global level. And you'll also take an additional option class, and I'll come on to say more about how great they are in a moment. And then in semester 2, you'll do a kind of training class, strategic communication, which is a group exercise class in producing a piece of corporate style communication. So it teaches you how to put together a campaign effectively. The other class is the research skills class, which prepares you and makes sure that you're all primed up to go for your dissertation, your large scale individual project. And the research skills class is intended not just to train you for your dissertation, but also to teach you about gathering information, assessing information, reading reports, producing reports. You'll be able to go on and use throughout your professional lives after you graduate from us. Now, I've been boasting about these option classes. There's another one to take there. But these are some of the option classes that we're currently offering. Digital Communication in Society, which asks you to think about how digital communication is affecting our lives, and how we can direct digital communication to affect our lives in more positive ways. There's another class on designing digital tools. And this is actually a really innovative class that's about developing software to do high level proper analysis of trends in social media. So you can keep on top of the way that you can make sense of what goes on in social media, which for many people is an impossible task. Digital skills is a class that's enabling our graduates to get a handle on an understanding of social media that's not available to other people. There's also communicating politics, which at the moment is a much more interesting class than perhaps we would like it to be. There's a great deal going on in politics. Contemporary politics is intervening in our lives and is giving us a whole new kind of a whole new direction in our kind of cultural mores in ways that we might not have expected. And that's largely because of communication. It's because of Twitter. It's because of the personalization of politics. It's because of the mix of politics and popular culture. And the more we know about this, the better equipped we are to make the most of it, but also to tackle it. And Communicating Politics is a class that helps you to do that. One of our other specialisms here is media and health, and in particular the impact that communication has on health and well-being. And the media and health class is an option for you to develop that interest. We also do a class where you can work with an external organisation and you can design a communication project with them, with our agreement, which you can do and we assess for you. So it's an opportunity for you to go out, work with an external organisation and to for a large scale, complex task, which you can then keep a note, you can then use as a portfolio to show later employers. So it's an opportunity effectively for you to go out and work outside, apply some of the skills that we are teaching you. And we call that our project with external client class. And you can identify your own clients. We also have people who will come in and pitch for students to come and do projects for them. So there's a variety of options available to you. We try to be as flexible as we can in allowing students to take that class and undertake a project that they're really interested in and that the client will benefit from. What we like to do in this class too is to use it as an opportunity for charities and other third sector organisations to avail themselves of the skills of our students. We do like it when our students go and work for organisations and give them a really high quality service, when those organisations do good stuff and couldn't afford that service otherwise. So this is an opportunity for you to go and work with charities and do some good as well. Now I'll hand over to Dr. Duncan, who'll talk about digital journalism and will also instruct me when to change the slides. Over to you, Sallyanne.
Thank you very much, Michael. And welcome everybody to our webinar. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the digital journalism course that we run at Strathclyde. And we've been running this for a few years now, highly successful, and with many of our graduates now in positions of authority. So well placed to help you in your future careers. Next slide, please, Michael. Okay, so the first thing I really want to emphasise with the digital journalism course is that it's very much a practical orientated course. We do theory as well, but the purpose of the course is to educate you to a high level so that you can work as a journalist or work within the creative industries in the fields of storytelling and digital communications. So the first thing that we emphasize is that because this is a practice-based course, you will be working on real life stories from day one. Of course, you will do some work in class, but the emphasis is very much on you going out, finding stories and honing your journalism skills. We're keen to get you out and about. We are keen for you to actually speak to people as opposed to merely communicating by email. So this is all about building your confidence by doing real life stories. You'll learn to research, investigate and produce content to a high level of skill using digital techniques, but we'll also be teaching you there how to record and edit audio and video if you've never used those sorts of contents to any great extent. I mean, it's fine if you can do it on your phone because mobile journalism is a big part of journalism these days, but it's important also to sustain quality when you're working for professional news outlets. We also like to give you the opportunity to experiment because if you can experiment with us, then you can go with all these great fresh ideas to an employer and talk to them about methods and approaches that they probably haven't even considered because they're busy doing the day job. So they may not have the opportunity to develop skills around different storytelling techniques. So we're always keen for you to experiment, have a go, see if it works. If it doesn't work, well, you can go on and move to do something else. If it does, brilliant. You've used something that is fresh and innovative. And as Michael said, a big part of what we like to do in journalism, media and communication is to promote innovation and for you to be entrepreneurial. Next slide, please, Michael.
For some reason, the slides have stopped moving so quickly when you're giving the orders.
I think sometimes it can get a wee bit sticky and sometimes you've got to double click them for some reason. So the other things that we prepare you for in terms of the real world is that you'll get a strong grounding in ethics and law. It's really important that you do know about where ethics play out in journalism and the importance of behaving responsibly and working as an ethical and responsible journalist. But it's also really important that you know about the law as well and how you can apply that to given situations and how far you can take things. So we will teach you the law as well, but it's predominantly Scots law that we do, although there is some UK-wide law that we examine as well. We'll also give you a bigger picture because your dissertation is an important part of what you will do on the MLitt Digital Journalism. And you can do either an academic dissertation or a production dissertation. But what we want you to think about in terms of that dissertation is placing that into the bigger picture. So how you can use that to perhaps in the future manage large-scale projects that you might do as part of your journalism. And the last thing is innovation, and I've mentioned that previously, and we've mentioned it a couple of times. So we're keen to encourage fresh thinking, innovative approaches, and for you to be a reflective practitioner. If you learn those skills now, then you will apply them the rest of your journalism career. It's really important that you are reflective in particular, so that you can learn from how you've perhaps tackled a certain story or project and how you can improve that in the future. But that innovation is really something that employers are looking for now. It's not just enough to have the actual skills. They want to see where you can take that, how you can become a future leader. So these are really important skills. Okay, next slide. So where do our graduates work? Well, actually they work all over the place, all over the world. But here I've just given you a taster of some of the things that they actually do. They work as journalists. A large number of them work within the UK media and Scottish media in particular. And that's everything from a local newspaper like the Cumnock Chronicle, right through to the bigger organisations like JPI Media, News Corp, NewsQuest. These are all well-established organisations, and actually once you're into one of these organisations, you can pursue your career throughout the world with them because they are multinationals. Our graduates also work in creative content production, so there's lots of jobs that haven't even been invented yet that a journalism graduate can do. So we've got people who have been creative copywriters, who are social media managers, who work in content marketing, but they're using their journalism skills specifically in that a lot of this involves research, investigation, and good storytelling. They work in public relations. We've got people who are working in digital PR and as digital PR and outreach executives, news and media relations managers, communication and marketing officials. And a lot of these jobs cross over as well. So although they have a title like that, they can sometimes be a catch-all. And in terms of public relations, it's specifically from a press officer's perspective. So it's more about providing an understanding of the media, understanding of journalism organisations specifically, and how they can work with the news industry in order to promote their messages. And we also have a number of our graduates who work as freelancers, either as journalists or in the wider creative industries. They've diversified into other things like photography or video production. And these skills sit very nicely within our journalism programme, in that we are emphasising multimedia. So there are opportunities there to, if you have a particular interest like photography, then to develop that within the programme. And next slide, Michael. So what will you study? Well, much like Michael outlined, you do 3 classes per semester. What we tend to do is have one sort of practice-based class and one theory-based class per semester, and an option. Now, so this again is the full-time curriculum that we're looking at, but it's possible to do the course part-time as well. So our first class in semester 1 is multimedia journalism, and that's where you will learn the skills of digital journalism and how to think in a multimedia context. Although you are expected to have some knowledge of journalism when you come on to the course, we will take you from the basic stages and very quickly move you through to more advanced study. And one of the things that we try to do each year in this class is we try to have a project that is based around a real event. And this is usually a piece of group work. And this year we're working with the Dear Green Place newsroom, which is part of, it's a COP26 related project. It's not actually part of the official COP26, but it's some of our students, along with students from other universities in Scotland and in Wales, are working with young people from the Global South to help write stories around the environment and climate change. So it's a really exciting project, and that's just typical of the sort of thing we try to get involved in. Last year, our students were involved in with Penn State University and some students there to report on the US elections. That was a hugely successful venture that we did, and thanks to Michael for partly setting that up through his connections. But it meant that our students got to speak to experts in the States and vice versa, and so there was a good synergy there between the two groups. Scots Law for Journalists, I've mentioned the importance of law as one of the skills that you need to acquire. This class, again, we will focus on assuming that you know little about the Scots law and Scottish legal system. So the Scots legal system would be explained to you. There's an emphasis on court reporting, because court reporting is particularly important for all journalists to be able to feel comfortable in mastering that. We also look at defamation, copyright, and protection of sources, amongst other things. And at present, this class is taught by a working journalist who has had a decade of court reporting experience with a court reporting agency, and now works for a daily newspaper. The options that you can do in semester 1, Michael has talked about media and health, and again, that is a suitable one for journalism, because there's it also takes in aspects of good health reporting and bad health reporting, and where the anomalies lie. Entrepreneurial journalism and innovation is a new class this year, although we have run a version of this previously. But the whole purpose behind this class is to get you to think entrepreneurially, to get you to explore that as a career option, so that you may not wish to actually work for a news outlet. You might wish to work on your own as a freelance, or indeed to set up your own entrepreneurial venture, like your own magazine or your own publication or whatever. And the innovation part of it is that we want you to use innovative storytelling techniques, explore different formats, and to think outside the box, to use a cliche. Okay, on to the next slide now. Semester 2, again, we've got this format of practice and theory. So the producing media class is the class that most students enjoy the most, in that the whole ethos of this is that you as a group create, launch and run your own publication. It's an online news site. It can be a magazine if you wish, but it's a group decision. You tell us and we set you running. But the whole purpose of it is that you are running this as if it is real. So it's public facing, your mistakes are visible, and you have to deal with those mistakes, but equally your successes are visible. And it's a great portfolio opportunity, a means of you pointing prospective employers to what you can do. Last year's group, who have just finished, produced a publication called Off the Record. And it was about engaging journalism. It was about journalism that is different from the norm and is aimed specifically at a younger audience. So please search out Off the Record on Twitter or Google it, and you'll find it, and you'll see what we do with that kind of project. The media ethics class is one that examines in detail the responsibilities, duties and obligations that journalists have when they're working on pieces of journalism, regardless of the content type and the platform. And we look specifically there at the aspects of truth and trust, minimising harm to vulnerable sources and indeed to the wider audience, the public good, etc. And we look at accountability and independence and fairness, humanity, and treating people with dignity. So a lot of big themes there, but we actually look at it in terms of applying it to specific situations. So although this is theoretical, it's an applied class as well. And your options in semester 2 would come from the media and communications modules. So there, as Michael has said, various ones that you can examine. Next slide, Michael. The entry requirements are similar to media and communication. We're a little bit more flexible in terms of the honours degree, because if you have relevant professional experience, say, for example, you might have worked as a freelance journalist or a trainee journalist, but have decided to come and do a master's programme, then that would count as professional journalism experience. So if your degree is perhaps not to 2-1 standard, then we would take these sorts of issues into consideration. However, we do prefer 2-1 or above. And we do like you to have some sort of journalism experience in terms of student journalism, journalism work placement, or something related to that. You know, you could have run your own blog, done your own podcast or something like that. But we want to see some sort of commitment to journalism as a discipline. However, if you haven't got that experience, don't be put off in terms of applying. Apply for the course and then let us handle that as well. In those sorts of circumstances, it would probably depend on the quality of your personal statement and what you think you can bring in terms of transferable skills. in terms of language requirements, we would expect a 6.5 overall IELTS, and that would be our minimum. We actually prefer a higher score if possible, because journalism is obviously a discipline that requires a lot of listening, reading and writing, and indeed speaking. So those skills are all very important. So we need you to have a higher level where possible. But if that's not the case, again, don't be put off. Think about our pre-masters programme and see if you can improve those skills a little. And I think it's time for me to hand over to Michael, who will continue with the webinar.
Yeah, so just a few things on why Strathclyde in the context of Strathclyde. I do know that I had a look at those of you who are registered. I know there are a minority, but a few students who are local to here or have come to Strathclyde, but some of you may not be familiar with Strathclyde as an institution or with Glasgow as a city. So Strathclyde is right in the middle of Glasgow. It takes up a substantial portion of Glasgow city centre. It's the really hilly part of Glasgow city centre we take up. There's a part just at the edge of Glasgow city centre where the hills are almost vertical, and that's where we are. So if you come here, you'll keep fit. And that also means that we are right in the middle of a very, very vibrant city. Glasgow is a very vibrant city. It's a very friendly city. It's a large city. It has diversity and a good cultural scene. It's known for its friendliness. It's known for its atrocious weather, very, very difficult accent that you will get used to, and approachable people. It's a very welcoming place. But it's also, as well as all of that, an extremely important city in Scotland. It's Scotland's media city. It's not the capital of Scotland. The capital of Scotland is Edinburgh. But there's much less interesting stuff going on in Edinburgh. Edinburgh is a very pretty city, but Glasgow is a city that actually is alive. Glasgow is the city that has the BBC, Scottish television, the redoubtable Herald newspaper, the national newspaper. We have evening newspapers as well. And we have most of the good shops. We have most of the good universities. Glasgow is by far the livelier and more vibrant city of all the cities in Scotland. I would say that anyway, but it's certainly Scotland's media city. And talking about gathering experience with media organisations, Glasgow is the city that you want to be in if you want to be around where the media is being made. It's also entirely incidental, often commonly used now as a backdrop for Hollywood movies. So you will occasionally find, a whole variety of media platforms being constructed in front of your eyes. But Strathclyde is at the heart of a city that is renowned for its welcome, renowned for its bad weather, renowned for its cultural vibrancy, and renowned for being the centre of media production in a country that is really interesting politically. Because when you come to Scotland, you're coming to a country that sees itself as a comparatively young, actually vibrant democracy. Scotland is a country where, one way or another, really interesting things are happening politically, and really vibrant and engaged debates are going on politically. And of course, in Glasgow, we have COP26, which is coming here in a few weeks' time. And I think that just testifies to the place that Scotland now occupies, not just in a European context, but even in a global context in terms of being at the centre of discussion. So come to Strathclyde if you want to study media and communication and digital journalism. And if you do come here, you'll be in a city that will take you to its heart and that you'll enjoy being in, and you'll be around where media and communication is made. And that is the end of what we have to say. So I think what we can do now is I'll stop sharing and we can respond to any questions that you may have.
Lovely, thank you very much both. That was really interesting. So we've got quite a few questions coming in already, which is excellent. Thank you very much. If anyone else has got any questions, then just a wee Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, 2 wee speech bubbles at the bottom. Just pop any questions in there. Okay, so first question, is there a minimum class participation size for optional classes to open, or are they available to everyone?
Well, we don't, I mean, the numbers that we have, it's postgraduate students rather than undergraduate students, so we don't have to manage quite the same quantities. You will get into the classes that you want to get into. If we have to have more seminar groups to accommodate students in popular options, media communication perspective, then we'll simply expand the class. So we don't have classes that are competitive for you to get into. If you join us as a master's student, you'll get to do the options that you want to do. So I suppose the short answer to that is there's no minimum classes, certainly not media and communication.
No, there's no minimum in digital journalism either. The only issue I would say is that maybe in the practical classes that we try to keep the numbers to a reasonable size because of the editing software and things like that we use. But again, if we actually what we're more likely to have is that we're going to have more students in a class than we would expect, and then we just run another class. So it's not a problem at all.
Okay, thank you. Are there any university maintained news websites that students either from the PG programme can be part of?
Well, there are a couple of things that you can get involved in. There's the Strathclyde Telegraph, which is a student newspaper, and from memory, I think that has been going since 1964, and it's an award-winning publication. We also run something called the Byline Club. It's actually the students that run this. I shouldn't say we in terms of lecturers, it's the students who run these organisations. And the Byline Club is a blog that comments on media activities and they interview people who are key in the media or who have an interest in some aspect of it. And I think there's also a photography club and a podcasting club, but the Students' Union is a very vibrant, active part of the university. And they have lots of these organisations and groups that you can get involved in. And indeed, if you wanted to suggest one yourself, then they're happy to accommodate as well.
Thank you. Another question, can we work as a journalist with the MLitt in Media and Communications degree?
You can do, yes. I mean, we offer a number of options. In the option classes, you can take option classes from digital journalism. In fact, a great many of our students do. So yes, you can. We would be. I mean, you would have to think it through, and you can discuss it with us why you would choose media and communication if you wanted to be a journalist. Because if digital journalism is available in the same graduate school, calling upon many of the same staff, and you're able to get access to many of the same classes. A substantial number of our media and communication students have the intention of going on to be journalists. They do that because they want to gather that knowledge of media and communication more broadly and seeing journalism as one part of it. But yes, you can do that, and you can balance your curriculum in such a way as your options are your options are very geared more towards journalism. And of course, you also have the dissertation, which you're welcome to concentrate on a journalism related activity. So yes, you can do, absolutely. And we can think about that, and if you have a discussion with us, we can determine which of the classes which of the programs rather is best suited to your ambitions.
Lovely, thank you. So talking about dissertation, when do we get to submit the dissertation? Obviously, because there's 2 intakes for media and communications as well. So when would they be expected to submit? Yes,
the January intake submit their dissertations the following January, and the September intake, September intake submit their dissertations in August, towards the end of August. Is that right, Sallyanne? Am I remembering?
Yeah, Yeah, end of August.
That's right, yes.
Okay. And what would be the word count for the dissertation?
12 to 15,000 words, Sallyanne?
Yeah, it's 12 to
Yes.
15 for the academic dissertation, so that would be the media and communication dissertation as well. With the production dissertation, it's slightly different in that we have to do an equivalency for multimedia content, because with the production dissertation, you're actually creating a piece of journalism. It's a piece of long form journalism, which contains a significant element of multimedia, but we have an equivalency table for that. So you would do the equivalent of 12 to 15,000 words.
Which sounds a lot, but it's not. You're doing your research skills class and you realise the components. You master the components that need to go into the dissertation. You very quickly make up the 12 to 15,000 words. So that's but it's large enough to be a substantial piece of work that often produces very high quality dissertations that our students take great pride in.
Thank you. Does the classes on media and communication come with a compulsory work placement?
No, they don't. Short answer, no.
Short answer, no. Lovely.
You can do external work through the external project class, so that counts as an option class. So there isn't a period where we send you away to do a placement. The reason for that simply is that we don't have the time to do it and give you the material we need to give you in terms of the teaching. Because it's a one-year program, we don't want you to go away for a few months to go and work somewhere else. We need you in here, doing the classes. But we do give you the opportunity to work with external clients. So but it's not a formal placement in the sense that you spend all of that time with them. You go between the university and the external clients.
Can I just add there that there are placement opportunities within the digital journalism programme, but I think it's worth noting that these are not credit bearing. So it's not a credit bearing compulsory placement. It's an opportunity to pursue a placement, so that would be done in your vacation periods, or possibly between completing your taught part of your postgraduate course and the dissertation, the start of the dissertation, the early stages of that. So many of us have worked as journalists, and we have extensive contacts within the Scottish media, so we're able to help you to get a placement, but it's not a requirement of the course. It's merely presenting an opportunity for you, and it's a recommendation if you do want to work in the Scottish media, because it gives you an opportunity to make contacts and to network.
Lovely, thank you. So we've got another question here. What is the grade asked to be accepted in the media and communication course, and how much does it cost? Now, I can put the link for both courses into the chat box. And the entry requirements are on there along with the fees. We won't get into the fees at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not being rude and not responding to that. I never remember the fees. I don't have a head for money. So that would be the best thing to do there is go to the website and get the updated version. If it was up to me, it'll all be free.
So I put the link in there for media and comms. I'll get the digital journalism as well. And all the entry requirements, the fees are all there, and the apply link as well for both courses are on the website. You can just apply directly. Another question, is a politics and international relations honours degree from Strathclyde sufficient to apply for either course?
Certainly sufficient for mine, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Michael, I didn't mean to cut across you there.
That's quite all right. Thank you. Don't come to Sallyanne.
I mean, as far as digital journalism is concerned, an undergraduate degree in any topic is valuable, because you just don't know what kind of journalism you're going to specialise in. So
I would echo that. I would echo that for media and communication. When we say in the website, I think it says a degree that's associated, but in actual facts, any undergraduate degree is useful in itself. We have many excellent media and communication students who come from the sciences, or come from business studies, or come from psychology. And I don't doubt we'll get others from different subjects in the future. But certainly politics and international relations is a highly pertinent degree in any terms.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, more questions. For the media and comms MLitt, are there any preferred experience criteria apart from an undergraduate degree?
No, none that we specify. Any experience that is relevant to media and communications, and it's a very, very broad area, we value and we take account of in respect of the application. But we're less prescriptive than programs and specifying exactly which experience we value, and that's largely because of the point I made a moment ago there, which is that media and communication students continue to surprise us in many respects. We're actually looking for students who are a type. We're looking for students who are enthusiastic about media and communication and innovative and want to find out where it's going in the future. And students come from a diversity of backgrounds, bring different things to that. And so they benefit from the programme, but also the graduate culture benefits from having a diversity of students. So any experience at all that you have, if you want to run it by us and we can discuss it with you and talk about whether or not we think that's useful, almost is useful. But it's just a matter of, yes, we're interested in a diversity. So any experience at all, if you think it relates to media and communication, there's a very good chance you could convince us likewise.
Lovely, thank you. Since the January intake for PG students don't get summer vacation, what do we do during that particular period?
You begin the dissertation during the summer. No one gets a summer vacation because you have to do your dissertation over the summer anyway. So you'll have the same period to start your dissertation over the summer. It begins after the research skills class. And so you get you do the bulk of the dissertation during the summer, and then you continue it through the second semester. It's a slightly different configuration to the norm in terms of the relationship between the dissertation and the other work. So the responsibility or the key is to get as much work done on the dissertation over the summer as possible, and then do the final drafting over the course of the second semester to submit the dissertation in January. But I'm afraid there are no summer vacations. Well, we do actually encourage you to take time in the summer to get away and recharge your batteries, to take a few weeks. But in both January intake and September intake, summer time is dissertation time.
Lovely. Somebody asked about work placements, but we've kind of already covered that for both courses. Will there be any interview conducted when applying for the MLitt degree?
Not for media and communication, but if you not an interview in the sense that we sit you down and assess whether or not you're a suitable candidate. But I do often have conversations with students who are not at their instigation rather than mine. I do often have conversations with students who are applying, who would like us to discuss. For me, allow me to judge whether I would advise them to take the programme, but also allow them to judge whether it's the programme for them. So we don't have a formal interview, but if you were kind of hoping that we would have, so we could have a discussion with you, then by all means, just get in touch and we can set up a Zoom meeting or whatever.
Thank you.
That's the same for us as well. We don't have a formal interview as part of the selection process. So what we do put a great deal of store by is the way that you write your application. So, for example, if it's absolutely 100% error-free, you go up the list for that. But also, if you want to just have a conversation with us about the course, whether it's suitable for you, whether it's what you really want to do, or whether you would be better in media and communication, happy to do that as well.
Lovely, thank you. Do I need to ask for a letter of recommendation from referees, and is it okay if I include my manager as one of the referees? So yes, so you need 2 references in total. Ideally, at least one should be academic, but if that's not possible, then professional references are acceptable as well, and they're added onto your application, and we request them if you're made an offer, we then request your references. So all you need to do is provide their details and we do that for you. So just as long as they're not a family friend or a member of your family, professional or academics acceptable. Another question, is linguistics and communication studies degree holder allowed to study this course? So I think you've both said that you're both quite flexible with the subject of the honours degree.
In any event, linguistics, some of our students go on and do dissertations in discourse analysis, which uses skills that are, so having skills in linguistics gives you an advantage in a particular way, and studying communication in a particular way. So that is really highly pertinent.
Lovely. Have any of your previous international students managed to get a job in the UK once they've graduated? I don't know if you would know that.
Well, one of my students from the year that's just completed was from India, and he's got a job in London with a tech magazine. It's an online magazine, so he's actually working as a journalist down there.
Yes, there are 2 or 3 that I can think of that are now working in the UK.
Yeah, I think another of my students from Pakistan is working for the BBC in London.
Excellent, thank you. If the dissertation goes into the summer, would a visa for international students cover this time period as well? I think it does, yes. Again, there's information, lots of information on the website about the visas as well. So if you just go onto the website and have a look. Last question on here. Is there any difference between the MLitt and MA degree?
MLitt sounds nicer. They're both just different ways of expressing there is a postgraduate degree. The MLitt, or the Magister Litarium, I think is the proper name for it, is it's more associated with degrees that involve a great deal of textual study. That's a tradition. So degrees that are beholden to a refined and critical set of skills in dealing with texts tend to be MLitts. It's a qualification which is only associated with a number of institutions, and it is a conspicuously higher qualification. So, for example, at some Scottish universities, you can get an MA as an undergraduate degree. You can't get an MLitt as an undergraduate degree; it's a postgraduate degree. So there is some kind of there's some kind of not randomness, but there's some of these MLitts, MSCs, they don't always, the definition of what distinguishes one from the other isn't always consistent. The one thing I would say is an MLitt looks good. It's a conspicuously higher degree, and it's not one that everyone has. So yes, it's a good one to have, I think. I would prefer it to an MA. I've got an MLitt. I like putting that after an MA rather than an MA.
That's great, thank you. I think that's all the questions being answered. Thank you very much, everybody. I think we're just coming up to completion time anyway, so that's taken us up nicely. Just a couple of things to highlight. If anyone's got any further questions about the application process, or if you've already got an offer and you've got any questions about it, we've got our monthly postgraduate drop-in sessions. Our next one's coming up on Wednesday. So I've put the link in the chat function there. You can register to come along to one of our drop-in sessions. I'm also going to put the link into our postgraduate top page as well. We've got our postgraduate open day, virtually open day, is on the 24th of November. So again, there's some presentations. We hope to have a student panel as well, and you can talk to the course directors, programme directors as well. So if you've got any follow-up questions, there's a couple of options there for you to get in touch with us, and we're happy to help you on your postgraduate journey. So I think we will just wrap that up for today. Thank you both. That was really interesting, and thank you everybody for coming along. Just a quick reminder, we are open just now for applications. If you are interested in January, then we would recommend get your application into us as soon as possible. We are closed over the Christmas holidays, so ideally next couple of weeks try and get your application into us. And that's, yes, thank you and good night everybody.
Bye all.
Bye. Bye.